Oh, hello, 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 hello. Welcome to Marriage Refresh TV.
Welcome.
We forewent all our normal hoopla and dupla and all that good stuff. I want to make sure all the information is where it needs to be. Yeah, it is. Great.
So no introduction.
No introduction. I'm Damon Rich.
And I'm Tamika Rich.
Welcome.
I was talking about our before.
Yeah. Welcome to Marriage Refresh TV. We are excited about our current episode series. It's actually going to end up being an episode series. And so looking forward to that. Can't wait to dig in. I've actually been super excited about about this series, and I'm definitely excited about the first episode, and I'm gonna be excited about all of them. But right now, I'm really focused on this first episode with marriage, and so the series is Marriages in the Bible. And so before you think it's a Bible study, it's before you think that it's a Bible study,
or maybe a fun one about it.
Yeah, it's a fun one about marriage, but before you really think it's about Bible study, it is. It's not a Bible study, but we're going to take stories, marriages that are found in the Bible, and we're going to dissect them and talk about them in like a real practical way. We'll give you a little bit of the backdrop. We will tell you where you can find some of the scriptures about the stories at. But we're gonna give you information to where you can go and read the story on your own, but we're gonna give you the highlight of the story. And so it's Marriages in the Bible, and we're gonna cover a couple of different marriages. And the first marriage we're gonna cover is Ahab and Jezebel. Ahab and Jezebel. And I am super excited about that. And this is what we're going to be doing through this series. So through this series, if you look at there's a link in the description for the broadcast. And in that link, you can actually join us as a guest, and we can have an interactive discussion about the marriage. So you can come on, we could talk about it. We want to get your take on it, on some of the stuff we're going to be saying and some of the stuff we're going to be sharing. We want to get your take on it. We want to hear from you and what you're saying and what you think about it. But I think for some, there may be some revelation in this first marriage, which is Ahab and Jezebel. I'm super excited about. I mean, I am really excited about this first marriage. Ahab and Jezebel, because when you think about Jezebel, you don't really think about her marriage. You don't really think about that she was married to a man, and they had at least one kid. I did some research on their thing. So they had at least one kid. So she was married to a man. They had at least one kid, and you can end up finding out it's just interesting. Just interesting. So I'm going to tell the story a little bit, and then I want to get into some of the key points or things like I picked up out of their marriage story. So we're going to talk about from their beginning all the way to Jezebel's death. She died before her husband. Again, if you want to join in with us, you can, from your tablet, computer, phone, you can actually click on the link and it'll bring you into our studio. And once it's in the studio, we will actually see you there, and we'll bring you on screen with us, then join in the discussion as we talk about Jezebel and Ahab in their marriage. So I'm ready to dive in. Are you ready to dive in?
I am. I was going to say, why were you, because I know you're super excited, not that we're both not, about this particular one. Out of all the ones that we're going to cover,
I think I'm super excited about it because I'll tell you the other marriages we're going to cover. I need to pull it up. Who else are we covering? I'll tell you why I'm super excited about it. So This first marriage is Ahab and Jezebel. We're going to also cover Ahasuerus, Vashti, and Esther, and I'm excited about that. We're going to cover Samson and Delilah, David and Abigail, Jacob, Rachel, and Leah, and then we're going to close out with Adam and Eve, right? So again, if you want to join us live on air, if you look in the description of the broadcast, you should see a link there. If you click on that link on your phone, your tablet, your computer, you can join us on camera. You don't have to actually turn your camera on, just need your microphone on in case you look camera shy. You can get your hair did or something. You're more than welcome to join into the discussion, because this is really more of a discussion, because I was tempted to set the cameras up where we're across the table, and I might do that next time, just saying just the two cameras and just kind of really that face-to-face discussion type environment. So yes, you can click on the link, you can join us on air, and we would be happy to have you join in on this discussion. So you asked me, why am I excited about this particular marriage? So I'm excited to talk about the Jezebel-Ahab marriage because there are actually some struggles in their marriage. And I don't even know if it's struggles in their marriage, but there's some things that happen in their marriage that are present in their marriage that I think many marriages struggle with. In their case, I think that maybe some things prevailed. And so because those things prevailed, I think that maybe it's it's an example of when those things prevail, the kind of problems the ending of your marriage and how things can finally turn out. But I also think that in their marriage and talking about those things, how do you combat those things that kind of showed up in their marriage? And I made a couple of quick points, but you may even have some more or notice some more or have something to add to that. But I'm just excited about their marriage because if you've been in church long enough, all you've ever heard about Jezebel. That witch Jezebel, you can even find Jezebel reference in the New Testament and Revelations about being a witch and this and this and that. And everybody in that Jezebel spirit. But what people forget, and we're going to cover this tonight, Jezebel cannot operate without Ahab.
Right. And they're not just hearing through the years about her and more of, I guess, maybe the external of Jezebel's spirit, but you've been told it's the red lipstick, it's the dress in a certain way, looking a certain way.
We're going to hit that and why they say that too.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, it is. And that's the thing is everybody gets so focused on that. So let me start just kind of telling the story of Jezebel. Okay. Again, you want to join us, hit the link in the description from your your phone, laptop, or tablet, and you can join us and we will be happy to have you on the show. Let me do something just so I can have this up.
From the way I was reading it earlier.
Okay. Let's see if this will show up the way I want it to. Yep, I don't have to say it again. There we go. So the wonders of technology. So let me just tell her story and some of the conjecture around her story. So Jezebel's father was believed to be a high priest of Baal or Astra, right? So, so she comes from this pagan religion. But before I even talk about that, I have to take even another step back to Solomon. When God told Solomon, he said, listen, you don't need to mess with these foreign women who don't serve me, that go after these other gods, because they will turn your heart away from me. Right. And Solomon didn't listen. And that's absolutely did happen to Solomon, right? So fast forward to the kings, and God had not only told Solomon that, he told the Israelites that and all these things.
Right.
But
one, because God knew who he had made us as male and female, and then the influence that we actually have as women that a lot of times we forget, take for granted,
or overplay
or use improperly.
Yes. And so God says that, in matter of fact, there's a statistic out there that says whatever the religion of the mother is going to be the religion of the child. right? But a father in home following a religion, practicing a religion, or what have you, is going to improve or increase the chance that that child is going to take the religion serious or whatever if he's in the home with the father, whatever. So there's some actual statistical data out there on that. But so Jezebel comes up. There's even some speculation that she was very promiscuous. That's one of the things that goes with her. Mm-hmm. And part of that is said to kind of lend itself to that she was a temple prostitute in the temple of Baal, mm-hmm. as part of their ritualistic worship. So here it is, we're going to get Jehu. Jezebel, Ahab decides to marry Jezebel. Mm-hmm. And it says something in the scripture where it talks about that, he didn't make it a light thing. Like he was one of the kings that had really ticked God off more than all the other kings. That he didn't take it a light thing to basically take Jezebel in. And when Jezebel came in, she immediately started painting the picture and enforcing Baal worship, mm-hmm. and Astra.
Things gonna change.
Yeah, some things gonna change around here. You gonna worship my gods and this and this, and that was her thing. That was what Jezebel did. So Jezebel came in. She started influencing the change in worship, and Ahab was all there for it. He was for it. Hey, yeah, we're going to worship Baal and Astra. Yeah, we're going to do these things, whatever. So she brought a religion. And you know what? There are so many men that I talked to, even Christian brothers, that said that their wife is responsible for leading them to Christ. Again, that influence, right? They wasn't even thinking about Jesus when they got married, but their wife was responsible for leading them to Christ. So fast forward, Jezebel is in there. She's changed the worship atmosphere, and Ahab really ticked God off with that. Now, one of the things you have to be aware of is that there was an evil king before him and even his dad. So here Ahab had an example of being evil. Mm-hmm. So his father figure image was evil, and he continued the trend and stepped it up a little bit.
And then his son, it trickled down.
Yep, trickled down to his son. Mm-hmm. So now, fast forward, Ahab decides that Ahab wants a vineyard, mm-hmm. Naboth's vineyard. And I'm going to give you, if you're looking for the scripture on their marriage, is 1 Kings 16, 31 through 32. And you just keep reading. Great story as you read it. So Ahab marries Jezebel. Then in 1 Kings 21, mm-hmm. Ahab sees this garden that he wants. It's right next to his palace. And he said, hey, Nabal, look, dude, I really want this vineyard. It's nice. Tell me what you want for it. I give you another piece of land somewhere else. I give you some money. Let me get you land. Naboth like, I can't give up my dad's land, my father's land, my ancestral land. I'm not going to sell it to you. So what does Ahab, the king, do? He goes home and start pouting, throws a temper tantrum. I ain't going to eat. I'm just going to be upset. And Jezebel like, boy, what's wrong with you?
Right.
What's wrong with you? He like, I went down there and I told Nabal I wanted his vineyard and he didn't want to give it to me. And she said, you the king.
Right.
You the king.
I love it.
I'm telling you. Yeah. She like,
get up from here and eat.
Get up here and eat. Yeah. I got this. Since you don't have the cojones to take care of it, the onions to take care of, I got this. Get up, eat. I got it.
So he was the turtle, she was the lion.
The turtle, the tiger, all of that. The turtle and the lion, she was all of that. So she went down there and said, hey, you know what? My husband tried to deal with you politely. I ain't even hearing it. Off with his head, killed him, took his land, right? Went back, Ahab said, you ain't something? Now the servants done cook some good pottage meat and stew and all of that. You ate something? Yeah. Okay. Now listen. Go down there. Nabal's vineyard is yours. I took care of that for you, right? That's Jezebel, right? So he go down there. He happy as a lark. I got my vineyard. I got my vineyard. I got nanny boo boo. I got all the servants. Y'all serve Nabal. Now y'all gonna take care of it for me because it's my vineyard, right? Now continue to fast forward in the story of Jezebel and Ahab. Then Jezebel runs into Elijah, and Elijah done slaughtered her prophets. Right? They come up. Elijah done made fun of them. Done slaughtered the prophets of Baal. And apparently, Ahab was watching this go down.
Right.
He watching it go down. So what does Ahab do again? Jezebel, I just want to tell you that spit it out, boy. He done killed all your prophets down there, girl. I couldn't do nothing. I was defenseless. I thought that Baal was going to save them and Astra was going to come down. But oh my gosh, Elijah slaughtered them. Because it says that, I know, honey, I'm being extra nice. I am.
Okay.
So I'm telling you, I'm enjoying this story. Because I'm giving it to you how I seen this story in my head. And I'm tickled, and that's why I got excited. So here we go. Jezebel doing her thing, and she said, it made the gods do to me and more if he not like one of them by tomorrow. Elijah heard it, strong man heard it, and said, this chick ain't playing, let me get out of here. Right? This chick ain't, because it said that, I always love this, and when I've taught it, is that when it says when he saw what she said. What did he see? If you look in her story, she went about killing prophets all the time. This wasn't nothing new. It's kind of being returned in the favor. She's like, oh, I see it.
Right.
I see it. So I'm going to get you. I'm going to get you. Who going to check me, boo? I'm going to get you. That's Jezebel, right? So Elijah, this strong man, runs. He's gone in the wind. Now, you can find that. Yeah, you can find that in 1 Kings 18:1 through 19:8, right? All right. So Elijah. Then we get to the end of Jezebel's story. Ahab dead. Jezebel without a man.
Right.
Jehu roll up to the crib.
Which did you say that earlier? Because I was wondering.
What?
That he died before she did.
He
I
did.
You said she did.
Yeah, no, he died before she did.
Yeah.
Jehu, I think he committed suicide in a battle or something. So Jehu rolled up. Matter of fact, Jehu and his crew might have killed him. Yeah.
During the battle.
So Jehu rolled up. Jezebel hear that Jehu coming, this man. It say Jezebel went in there, girl. She got the bundles. She put on the lashes. She got her best little head figurine. She got the lipstick. See, that's where they coming. That's where they come. That's in the first book of Jezebel. She got her lipstick doing her thing. She had got her eyes together. Face beat. Yeah, whatever y'all say, all that. So Jezebel came out there looking like a whole snack and figure, I'm finna bat my eyes at Jehu, and Jehu gonna fall under the same spell that Ahab fell under after I wiggled his hip and bat my eye. And Jehu rolled up. And Jehu said, they asked Jehu, they said, is it peace? Jehu said, have you lost y'all mind? Y'all know why I'm here. You see that chick up there? Throw her down. They threw her down off the balcony. Jezebel dead. There was a prophecy that said that she wouldn't even get buried. The dogs would eat her bones. By the time they went to bury her, all they had was her skull and her palms. Was all that was left. And so the prophecy came true. And that's the end of Jezebel. So what can we learn from this marriage? What can we learn from this marriage? Again, I put it at the bottom, but you're more than welcome to click on the link in the description and come on screen with the discussion. Here we are. Here's some things that I picked up out of the marriage of Jezebel and Ahab. One was about unity. They were on one accord.
Bonnie and Clyde.
Bonnie and Clyde. They were on one was a little wimp. One of them was strong, but they were on one accord.
Right.
And because they were on one accord, the one accord principle works no matter how you apply it.
Right.
How can two walk together unless they agree? Jesus didn't say, how can two walk together unless they agree? How can two walk together unless they agree about the good stuff? It's like, how can two walk together unless they agree? They had unity in their marriage. In that unity in their marriage allowed them to do the things that they did. Right, wrong, or different. They were in power and they were able to do things because of unity in their marriage. So that's the first lesson that I want to pick up out of marriage, is that something you can learn, because they say in every situation you should learn what to do, what not to do.
Right.
This is one of those examples of what to do. Have unity in your marriage, because when you're unified in your marriage, there's nothing that can stop you. Right. Okay.
You need the right unity.
You need the right unity, but regardless of what you choose to do, unity in your marriage is going to allow you to go further than being divided.
Right.
Right? Okay. So that's one. Anything you want to add to that?
No, you did.
Number 2, play your roles. Roles in marriage are important. And Tamika hit it earlier. She hit it. Jezebel was the tiger. Ahab was the turtle. And they played their roles well.
Right.
That is, again, another part of their testament of their unity. Learn your role within the relationship and play your role. Everyone has a role within the relationship. And when I say role, I'm not talking about the traditional gender roles. You cook, I cut the yard, that type of thing. I'm talking about the roles of purpose, the roles of influence. Learn to play your role within the marriage. One of the things that
even though he was the king, she had her role of, as if he doesn't take care of it, I am, and he already knows that's the end of the story. That's
the end of the story. Yes. She was definitely that tiger, and she played her role. And here's the thing. He didn't try and stop her from playing her role. What she was good at, he actually encouraged it. That's why when he could have went down there and tried to kill Elijah and not even let him get away. No, he said, no, the killer in this family is her.
Right. And Nabal. And
Nabal. He could have did the same thing.
I asked you nicely one time.
Yeah, he was the king. She understood his authority, whether he was the king, but she was the killer. She was the killer. Jezebel was that absolute ride or die chick, but ride or die meant she gonna ride and you gonna die. That's how she was.
Well, she got them both killed.
She eventually got them both killed because she was running up against God,
right?
Which is foolish, but that's the thing when it comes down to Jezebel and Ahab. They knew their roles and they played them. So play your role within your marriage. And again, this is going beyond gender roles. This is what strength you have. Bring that to the marriage and recognize and identify each other's strength and let each other play their role.
Agree on
it. There you go. What's the next one?
Enabling.
Ooh, enabling. I think I want to save enabling the last.
Sure?
Yeah, I'm gonna come back to enabling. Influence. I was stuck with this one a little bit because I was trying to pin the hint. Definitely she had the greater influence and she used it.
She did.
Learn to understand where you have influence with your spouse, because you can influence your spouse to evil or to good. So I'll tell you a story that I encountered one time, came across. So is this guy, and what ended up happening was his wife, sweet lady, really, really nice lady or whatever, she felt offended by something that had happened, right? And her husband was, she was this very godly woman. Her husband was still on the way, but he still had them rough edges like me, whatever, what have you. And so what ended up happening is that wife shared something with the husband that she felt offended on, right? The husband immediately went into defense mode or whatever and start blah, 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 and saying this, that, and the third. Now, when everything blew up, the wife was like, oh no, and tried to kind of play the innocent role. But no, you knew what you was igniting. And if you didn't know, you should have known. So you was influencing him because you're not that person to attack things the way he attacked it, but you wanted it attacked. You just didn't want to be the attacker. Mm-hmm. And so what you did is you lit a fire under the one you knew was the attacker.
Right.
Right. And so then when it blew up and went far left to the other way, it's like you tried to reel it back in, but it's too late.
Right.
So we see those type of things happen. Is you have to be aware of your influence in your spouse. So
you have to know your spouse
mm-hmm.
to know those things. And sometimes those don't come early on, but the more you get to be intimate with them or get to know them, you have to know these things trigger your spouse.
Yes.
And that, hey, if I tell him or tell her this is what's going to happen, or this is how he or she probably is going to react.
Yeah. And here's the thing about it. It's not even that you don't tell them, mm-hmm. although in some cases that might be the case, right. But it is that you make sure how you tell them, mm-hmm. and you make clear, listen, I'm bringing this up to you. I just need to vent. Mm-hmm. I don't want you to do anything. Right. You can vent with me. You can go off with me, but I don't need you to go do anything. Right. Make that abundantly clear. Are you going to be able to do that? Yeah, I'm going to listen. I ain't going to do anything. And then you tell them, and then they gonna vent, but they honor your request not to go do anything, mm-hmm. right? In that particular instance. So you have to understand, like you said, that influence, mm-hmm. and knowing your spouse or whatever. And so in Jezebel and Ahab's marriage, we find out that they understood the influence. So when Ahab wanted to get something done, he knew how to influence Jezebel, and Jezebel knew how to influence others. Although I don't know if just killing folks is really influencing them, but yeah, she did that, right? So that's that part. The other one, because we're gonna come back to enabling, mm-hmm. manipulation. So this woman was good at manipulating, mm-hmm. but I think how she used her femininity shows up in her encounter with Jehu. Right. That's where you see it the most.
So do you think that's where femininity got a bad rep?
I don't know if it came from her.
Right.
Because really the one that first, I think Eve was wiggling her hips when she said, girl, boy, take this apple. Take this apple. Take this apple. All right. You're going to be on the couch. We ain't got no couch.
So she was batting her eyelashes.
She might have, but I do think that over time that is a tool that. So I was telling a friend this the other day. God has given us all gifts that the devil wants to pervert.
Definitely.
So femininity has always been a gift for women. Mm-hmm. But it is something that can be perverted, mm-hmm. one way or the other, mm-hmm. right? It can be used for good. It can be used for bad.
So we'll talk about it later. Is that one of ours, Esther?
Yeah, we're going to get into Esther. Yeah, because Esther.
Femininity once again.
Esther, matter of fact, when you get into the story of Esther and Vashti, mm-hmm. then you get to see femininity, two ends of the scope on full display. And you get to see the feminist movement, so to say, in a biblical perspective with Vashti. So I'm telling you, all these marriages, I'm like super excited about. I'm super excited. I'm just trying to focus on one at a time. Okay. So stop the strain. So manipulation. Understand that manipulation does not really work on men who are tigers. See, her manipulation worked on a turtle. When it was time for her manipulation to work on a tiger, it didn't work. You have to go back and understand who Jehu was and understand he's a bad boy. But manipulation does not work on a tiger. So sometimes with let me go ahead and let me say this way. Manipulation does not work on a tiger who does not want it to work on them. Okay. So a wife who has her husband's heart can manipulate him in that regard because she knows the soft spot on the tiger. However, manipulation in general does not work on a tiger.
Mm-hmm.
It works on a turtle every time. It don't always work on a tiger unless the tiger wants it to work on it. He didn't even see he being manipulated. Like, I know what this is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he done played out the whole plan. So yeah, this finna be nice. Tonight finna be a real nice time in bedroom. I got my favorite meal. There's an ass coming somewhere. And sure enough, the ass show up.
Right.
And he knew it, and he could have stopped it, but he knew it, but he prepared his heart for it, and he gave into it. Mm-hmm. Manipulation. So one other thing that we can learn from their marriage before we jump back up to the one I really want to dig into is authority. The importance of authority in a marriage, in everyone owning their own authority. Mm-hmm. So I believe that a wife has a dominion and an authority, and a husband has a dominion and authority. And those dominions and authorities were meant to work together, not against each other.
Right.
And again, we see the symbiotic, perfect relationship that Jezebel and Ahab had, in that they both walked in their authority and their authoritative areas well, and it was congruent or cohesive was the word, and it allowed them to do great things.
Right.
It allowed them to do great things. So when you look at their marriage, if they were doing great things, this would be an ideal marriage. But since they were doing evil things, it's still an ideal marriage on principle.
Okay. On
principle.
Right.
Now,
because even though she didn't have the authority that the king had himself, because he was the king, she still had enough authority to get away with the things that she did.
Ooh. Now, see, you just said something that made me think about something. Mm-hmm. I can remember we were having a conversation one day, and I forget how you said, so I'm going to put it how I remembered or logged it in my mind.
Okay.
But we was talking about something, and you said this. You said the lioness's voice is amplified by the lion standing behind her, right? So it's like kind of like if I'm there, your voice is amplified by me being there.
Right.
Not that I have to say anything, but my authority with that, like, oh, okay, then, because the last thing that people want, because I think I'm the tiger in most cases. You have some tiger in you too. You're a tiger turtle. I think that for the most case, that when we stand behind each other or that authority, or even vice versa, certain things, it's a situation where we stand behind it. That authority is there without me having to say anything.
Right. It echoes.
Yes. And so I think what ends up happening is with Jezebel, she was able to do a lot of the things that she did is because that authority was standing behind her.
Right.
Oh, y'all gonna resist me? One, I'm gonna have you killed.
Right.
And if y'all don't do,
because here's the thing with her, she was sending letters to Nabal before she actually went to kill him.
Yep.
In her husband's name. She didn't sign her name. She signed his name.
Ooh, that's good. That's good. I forgot about that.
Right. So he gave her full authority pretty much when she said, I got this. So she's sending letters with his name on them. Like they came from him.
Yeah. That is, and that perfectly summarizes it. Like she sent them in his name.
Right.
Yeah. And that's the perfect illustration of how those authorities work.
Right.
Those authorities work. I'll tell you, like, for example, flipping it on the reverse, and I had to learn this early in marriage. I eventually learned it. I'm on the slow bus sometimes on certain things. But when guests come to my house, I used to not really clear it with you, or I didn't give you enough lead time. But from a house, this sanctum, our home, this is her realm. This is her castle, right? The authority about who enters this castle, it's all hers. So not to the point where I'm gonna look at my road boy like, you can't come over because my wife said you can't come over. I ain't talking about like that.
No.
But if we're gonna have guests or somebody gonna say something or whatever, I had to learn over time, hey, let me check with my wife. Because this is her realm. This is her authority. Women have a peculiar way that they are about how their house look when guests come in, all of those type of things. This is her realm and her authority. So that is, for me, And I know another area I need to do better in that context now that I'm sitting here thinking about it, because I'm just getting this profound revelation. But because it's her realm and her authority, my responsibility is I play within that realm and that authority. Right. So I'm not going to something as simple as this, right? And I'll show you how this plays out too. Something as simple as this. And ladies, if you don't know these two things that I'm about to say, you're about to learn something. Men, if you don't know these two things I'm about to say, you're about to learn something. So something that I have found, right, is if my one of my, I'm sitting here at the house and my wife is expecting one of her road girls to come over, right? Mm-hmm. And my wife rolls up, or she's like, "Hey, honey, so and so's coming. Whatever, this, and that, and that, and the third," right? Or one of her road girls is just swinging by, right? She's just swinging by. Out of respect for her authority, don't have to be nothing going on. That woman needs to stay in the car. She'll need to come in the house. Now, from a hospitality thing, you're like, "Oh, you should invite her." No, I don't. Now, the only way that she would get invited in is if my children are present, right? And I was like, "Well, Tamika will be here. You can sit in the sit in the living room." If I wasn't here. Yeah, if you wasn't here yet, even if you call me and tell me, "Hey, so you would have to call me and tell me, "Hey, so and so getting ready to come by. Just tell her to come on in and have a seat or whatever." But even if she do that, I have to remove myself from them. "Okay, hey, Tamika said she'll be here in a minute. Have a seat." I'm going in the room. Or hopefully the kids are here or whatever. I'm going outside because it's a respect for the authority. Right. It's a respect for the authority, right? Now, the same thing, and this is man code, and women might not understand. If I am not home and one of my road boys stop by, or that I'm like on my way to the house, I'm like, "Yeah, man, hey," I'm gonna call my wife, say, "Hey, my partner coming by, or whatever, I'll be there in a minute." Men know you don't even get out the car. You stand outside the car, even if you ain't on the phone, you get on the phone and post up and like, "Hey, whatever." You don't go in that man's house without that man being there, because there's where you flip the authority the other way. Right? That's a respect type of thing. The only women that would, a woman or men that would walk in our house without either one of us present has to be family. Yeah, I was about to say if it's family. Yeah. It's family or something like that, but it is a authority thing. And so again, back to this is her realm. So her authority has to be respected. And you might say, "Well, you're the king of the castle." My authority doesn't exceed hers because this is her realm. My wife makes the house a home. I know that sounds cliche-ish. My wife makes the house the home. She can absolutely set the atmosphere. You're like, "Well, what do you mean by that?" I'm gonna tell you, it's scripture. It says better sit on the roof than be in the house with a honorary woman, right? So that means
inviting people and doing things without her not knowing, having any consideration, compassion of, "Oh, honey, And not only have I invited them, I told them you were gonna cook. Yeah, we were gonna eat, and you know what I'm saying. And you're not prepared. So if you continue to go down that road and do those things, one, it's just disrespectful. Yeah. But yeah, you kind of assert the authority that they have. Yes. And take it from them.
Respect the authority of your wife's realm. That's what I would tell you as a husband. Respect the authority of your wife's realm. Now, what they do for us, fellas, is they give us a little hole in the wall and they call it a man cave, and that's our little dominion. And then they try to slowly take that over. But that's a whole nother topic.
Okay, right.
Whole nother topic. Now I want to talk about the last part of the lesson we can learn from their marriage. Enabling. So I asked a question the other day, and if you want to drop an answer in the comment, I'll wait for a minute. Or if this is your time to come on the screen with us and really have some discussion, I'm interested.
Join us. Tell us what you think.
Yeah, join us. Tell us what you think. Click on the link in the description. From your phone, computer, laptop, tablet, it doesn't matter. You click, you join. You will bring you on the screen. Listen, here's the last part, enabling. So I asked the question, and I want you to drop a comment in the link. I want you to drop a comment or a response in there. Which is worse, the enabler
Mm.
So the person who allows somebody to do something, or the enabled. Which is worse, the enabler or the enabled? Which is worse? Now, in this relationship, Ahab was the enabler.
Right.
Jezebel was the enabled. Which is worse? Let's think.
That's hard to say. It's like equal. But a lot of times you don't put the blame on the enable, you put it on the enabler.
Yeah, yeah, you do.
But they're equal.
They seen that. Or
should be.
Kia says the enabler. Which is worse? So here's where, like, in their marriage, like, it really just like goes down. Jesse and Ahab. He's the enabler. She's the enabled. I believe that the enabler is the worst in most instances, you know, because they are enabling that person sometimes out of pure heart, out of love, and they just let them have their way and do whatever, and they're hoping that they'll change their behavior.
Yeah, I was going to say that, because the enabled most times, 9 times out of 10, or maybe even 10 out of 10, there's something broken. They're broken.
Well, if she was a temple prostitute, that might explain some stuff, right? But here's the thing. So you come down, and we can get into the brokenness, but she manipulated. He continued to enable, right? Now, you got a wife for a killer, and you decide, I don't want to worship Baal no more, right? You ain't gonna worship Baal no more. Take down all them altars. What you think gonna happen to Ahab?
She was gonna bring it.
She was gonna kill it. Yeah, she was gonna kill it. So what happens is, in your marriage, you have to make sure that you are not enabling bad behavior. Now, I'm not talking about the old school adage of women who withhold sex from their husband and dollars, or I'm on reward bad behavior. I ain't talking about that kind of stuff. Right. But you can't, the enabling of that bad behavior is not giving into sex with your spouse. The enabling of that behavior is when they're doing something and crossing boundaries, and you don't say anything about it just to keep the peace.
Yep.
Right?
That's what I was going to say. That or living in fear. Then there's a whole nother issue. So here's a conversation I had with some brothers about the enabling thing. So the conversation I had with the brothers was this. Husbands, you good? All right. So I'm finna say something. I'm finna drop something. Okay.
Husbands are often enablers of their wife, and then we complain about what we have enabled. I talked to several brothers, and listen, most of the time when we enable our wives towards behavior that we are not comfortable with, it is for the sake of peace. I don't want an argument. I don't want to not be able to have sex tonight. I don't want her not feeling like cooking. I don't want any number. And some of it is very selfish, right? Or I want to watch the game in peace, and she gonna be on a warpath, right? I want to be on a war. So there are a lot of times that husbands enable their wives, right? And then complain about what they have enabled. The wife knows she's being enabled. She's manipulating the situation to be enabled, and he keeps giving it in. So some of the things I heard from brother, I said, now listen, I want you to think about this. So you enable her to keep the peace so you don't have to argue. But then you still end up arguing anyway about something completely different, or about that thing that you enabled her to do later when the fruit shows up. You enabled her about the seed, And then when the fruit shows up.
Yeah, because you can only sweep it or not get into the argument for a shorter period of time.
Yes.
At some point, it's going to come full circle.
Exactly. And yes, my kid, that is exactly why they say happy life, happy wife, because that is an enabling statement. Let her have whatever she wants, and she's going to leave you alone, and you're going to keep peace and that type of thing. That's exactly what I said.
I think that's perspective, how you look at it. Because I agree with the statement, but not in the way that it's portrayed as if you let her do what she wants or be Jezebel to get away, that you're going to have a happy home. Because there's things that sensible, regular, everyday women that just wants to keep the peace in their home, if she's happy and content with, then your life is actually happy, not because she's manipulated you, influenced you in the wrong way in the areas. Overall, a generally happy woman or wife will make your home happy. That's why she is who she is, to make the house the home. She makes that house that home when she's able. One, she has the tools to do it with, and two, her perspective or her motive is pure about it. So when you have a pure woman with a pure motive, happy wife, happy life, I think that's true.
I used to agree with the happy wife, happy life statement, but I think that I saw a difference in everybody should be happy.
Oh, I agree.
It should
but
be.
I think that's like the silent thing saying, hey, if she's happy, then everybody's happy.
Yeah, everybody's happy, but it's the why everybody's happy. So she's getting her way. That statement really is about if she's getting her way, everybody else is going to be happy. That's really what that statement is about.
Right.
You try to make it a positive.
Oh, I take everything negative and make it a positive.
Yeah, you try.
Right.
You try. This one right here, you can't win that one.
I can't win.
Yeah, you can't win that one. So that's the thing, is like when we enable our spouse, and so a lot of men, they do that. But then you end up having an argument, right? And they were like, you know what, brother, you're right. I said, you still ended up arguing about it.
Right.
You just argued about the fruit instead of the seed.
Mm.
Now you got to cut down a whole tree in order to clear out all of the bad energy, whatever in the relationship. You got to do a whole tree.
And then go back and get the seed.
Right? And so, but if you don't, it's going to keep dropping seeds. And guess what you're going to get, right? More fruit that you're going to be disappointed with. So that enabler and enabling, you have to identify when you are enabling your spouse to break boundaries, when you're enabling your spouse not to do so. So one of the things I would say we find even in some of the things that we find in marriages and some of the marriage coaching and stuff is in just dealing with even in infidelity or whatever, is some of that is perpetuated or keeps going because you don't set a boundary and you enable behavior. It is okay to put guardrails around your marriage, and those guardrails are boundaries. So when you think about marriage, there's think about it as a square within a square. So think this is a square, whatever. You pretend it's a square. So think about it as a square within a square. These are the guardrails around the marriage. Within that, there are guardrails around the wife and there are guardrails around the husband, right? Because there has to be boundaries around each other, but the marriage as a whole has collective boundaries around it. And what happens when we start doing the enabling thing is we don't honor the boundaries. We don't. So, when I've talked to some brothers and we have conversations, I'm like, no, they're like, man, she's tripping. Why is she tripping? I went out, I hung out a little late at the club. What time you got home? About 2 or 3, man. But I wasn't doing nothing. She'll keep it. Listen, bro, you married. Let me just go ahead and say that. Right. As the old folks say, ain't nothing open that time of night but police stations and legs or whatever they say, right? Mostly they focus on the legs. Right. It don't make sense for you. And it's like, well, I'm a grown man. I was a grown man. I got to have a curfew. Yes. But it shouldn't be one. If you see it that way. Yeah, but if you see it that way, but it's not a curfew that your wife should have to set. It is a curfew of honor and respect. Are you going to have some times that maybe like the Super Bowl, hey, honey, I'm going to watch the game with the guys. You know the Super Bowl gets overlaid and y'all shooting the breeze, whatever. You're going to have the occasion. But when that is your routine, your spouse had no expectation of you being out that late, whatever, yeah, you're wrong. You got to have it. That's one of those things. And so let's say that leads to my wife want to have me no fun. So then this other chick is cool with me having fun because she had at the club with me at 2 or 3 o'clock. Boom. Now you find yourself in a situation. That can go the other way with women. I'm not just using men as an example. That can go the other way with women. You have to have boundaries. And it is not godly of you to just ignore the boundaries and just talk about the boundaries, set the boundaries, and then ask for respect of the boundaries. And you do not have to enable the continued violation of the boundaries.
Right, because there's consequences to everything.
Yes, there are no actions that don't have consequences. Exactly. So, that's all we have. That's what we have learned about the marriage of Jezebel and Ahab. We covered authority from one perspective. I do want to wrap up authority. When Jezebel ran into sincere, unmovable authority. Now you thought she would run into it with Elijah, but Elijah allowed fear to kick in. Jehu, when she met a real man, none of her enabled tactics, manipulation, none of those things worked. Jehu did not come to play with her because he understood who she was, so he wasn't going to play with her, right? That is something that you have to understand. Wife, you are blessed if you have a man of character and integrity who is not moved by your manipulation. You're actually blessed. You might not like it because you want to be enabled. You are blessed when you have a husband that is not moved by those things. Right. Because if he is a man not moved by those things, hopefully that carries over that he's not moved by them outside the home either. You're blessed. Husbands, you are blessed if you have a wife who understands the dynamics and brings her own strength and is comfortable in her own authority. Let her operate in that. The house is going, that's not enabling. That's letting her be who she is, and who she needs to be. You know what I always say? It is the responsibility of a husband to create a safe environment for his wife to grow. That I believe that not only for your children to grow, but for your wife to grow and be comfortable being who she is. That's my job as a husband, is to create that safe place for her to be herself and grow to be herself. We don't always get it right, but that is the responsibility of it.
Right. It takes time, and you're learning to do it. But I think in the beginning, this is something you should find out sooner than later if you can handle who she is, and vice versa, if you can handle who he is. Because I think a lot of times people like the idea of the person or certain things about them, and then once they say the I do, or they get in it, to say the I do, they're committed to the relationship, is I need to start clipping the wings and trimming off stuff and changing and making it just how I need it to be. And when you do that, it's like you take a part of the person and who they really are away. If your strength and authority as a husband, your strength and authority as a wife does not violate the mutually agreed upon boundaries. Let me say that word. Let me say that phrase again, very slow. The mutually agreed upon boundaries. If their authority, their strength doesn't break those mutually agreed upon boundaries, let them be them. Let them be them. So we are glad you joined us tonight. We had hoped you would come in on the discussion, but maybe you'll build up your nerves to do next time. Next week, we're going to be covering Ahasuerus, Vashti, and Esther. Ahasuerus, Vashti, and Esther. We're going to be covering them, and we're going to really tune in on standards and influence.
Standards and influence.
So some moral influence.
Yeah, standards and influence. And I think you're really going to get some, because most of you probably hadn't even, unless you're some of the deep Bible theologians, most of you hadn't even thought about Vashti or even heard about Vashti. But go check your Bible about your girl Vashti. Learn about Vashti a little bit. Talk to her, see what she does, because there's something that we want to pull out of the relationship she had between her and Ahasuerus, and then Ahasuerus and Esther, and how they dealt differently with Ahasuerus, and kind of how Vashti maybe got a little bit of a bum rap, was maybe, maybe was treated a little unfair. So next week we're going to be covering that, continuing marriages in the Bible.
One of the ones where we can say or relate to, the woman goes, why did she pick her over me?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I think we can get into that. So listen, join us next week. Be ready to join us. Jump in the dialogue. Be ready. We're looking forward to it. We hope that you'll join us. And until the next time, we thank you. We thank you for joining us. Share this video. Hopefully you learned something about marriage. The marriage between Jezebel and Ahab, and something you can actually learn to protect your marriage. Because I said this in one of the posts. Believe it or not, Ahab and Jezebel are stalking your marriage. The bad parts of them are stalking your marriage. But there are positives. Everything we just mentioned about them can be turned into a positive for your marriage. You can turn that negative into a positive. But the negative part of them is ever stalking your marriage. But if you can identify it and turn it around, actually, some of the strengths, some of the things that showed up in their marriage can help your marriage be even stronger. So that's all we had for you. Please join us next week. Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate you. Tell a friend. We'll be here next week. December the 8th. Yeah, no, December the 8th. We will be here next week. The advertisement will go out soon, and you can just kind of mark it and flag it, and so you get your reminder. God bless and good night until the next video.
Good night.